Hi, everybody. This is Sue McLaughlin. If I haven't met you, I appreciate you being here for this presentation. And I am a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and a certified diabetes care and education specialist who works for the Winnebago Health Department. And I'm over there in the basement down by the PHNs and by the behavioral therapists in the hospital. So we're going to talk today about how we can eat healthy on a budget. And I'm going to start with just pointing out this particular website. It's with the University of Idaho Extension, and it's a pretty cool tool. You can go on there and you can enter in how many people are in your household, and male or female, age groups, and then how many times you eat away from home during the week for each of the people that you enter into this product, and it then will compute an amount that would be a good estimate of the amount of money that is needed to provide a diet that's based on healthy choices for your family. So any kind of meal that is purchased away from home, whether you are eating somewhere else or whether you're buying it and bringing it home, would count as purchased away from home. And the reason that's important that you also put that in there when you're budgeting is because they figure that of the 10% of the budget that we spend on food as Americans as an average, about half of that 10% is spent on food that is purchased away from home. So it's a good bit of information to figure out if you're trying to make some changes in your budget or to try to make your food dollar go further, is to identify how much you're spending in that way. So then here you see, this is for a two-person family where one is a male, one is female, and they're in the age group of 19 to 50 for each of them. And they each eat 2 meals away from home during the week. And so what this calculator shows is that they could, to eat a healthy diet, they would be spending $104 per week for the household, or a little less than $450 per month for the household. So like I say, depending on the age of your children or grandchildren, depending on what your needs are, that might seem like a high or a low number, but you can also put in, depending on your income level, you can put in information that will help calculate up if that's appropriate for you as well. Just a minute here. It looks like we have a little bit of technical issue going on. Let's see if I can get this to move forward. I might have to halt this and see if Eleanor can help with this. I want to advance for some reason, so I apologize. Okay, so think about what do you consider to be a healthy diet. I think all of us would agree that it includes fruits and vegetables, it includes protein foods, and preferentially items that are lower in fat, and it includes whole grains. Again, the more that you can include whole grains and you can include foods that are higher in fiber, that will be beneficial for you. I think the other important thing to think about with this is, what do we do most of the time? We all have certain favorites that we probably wouldn't classify as being healthy, but if we think about what we do most of the time, we can still include those things in, and we have to recognize and be realistic with ourselves that sometimes life gets in the way, so to speak, and we have other obligations that may cause a meal or a day or a week, sometimes even a month, to be a situation where we don't eat as healthy as we know is the ideal situation. This slide just kind of gives you information about what you might consider to be the most healthy foods. And this was put together several years ago, but so this was pre-COVID that this list was compiled. I don't remember the group that compiled it, but as you can see, there are a lot of the same things that we saw on the last slide, a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of whole grains, nuts and seeds. And as well, on the right-hand side, you see some protein foods that are also healthy, but yet can be very affordable. So we're going to go through 15 different things that are examples of how we can save money on our for food budget. And so the first thing is, as in many parts of life, is plan to have a plan and look at, what is your family's life like in terms of work schedules, in terms of school schedules, if you have children or grandchildren, in terms of when do you get together with other extended family members, and what does my weekday versus my weekend activity schedule look like? So there are a couple examples here, and you can email me. I've got my email at the end of this if you're interested in any of these slides, or if you want something like this particular tool. It just is nothing special about it, but it does help you kind of think through some of the questions that are important when you're trying to figure out how you can keep your food within a certain budget. So where are you going to be eating? Who's going to be there? When will you eat? Who will pick up or prepare the food? Very important. And what is going to be on the menu? And then some notes. And you've got an opportunity to put something in for every day of the week. And then this is a very complex kind of example, but should give you some ideas of things that you might want to consider. So, again, where will we eat? Will we be at home, or will we be at a family member's house, or will we be at a sports event, for example, for one of the family members? How many people will we be feeding? So do we know that a friend of one of our kids comes over to eat dinner with us every night? Or do we know that people will be elsewhere? And so more of our food budget is going to be going to eating out instead of having food eaten at home. What time are we going to eat? And so that may make a difference in what we choose. Are we going to have something, for example, in the crock pot, so that no matter when somebody comes home, they're able to get some soup out of that and whatever else, and it'll be an easy meal once it's prepared for people to grab when it works for them. Who's going to prepare the foods? Really important, of course. I think for any of us with children or grandchildren at home, it's always a good opportunity to engage them in preparation of the food, even if it's something basic like washing up something or cutting it up to put into a soup or into a casserole. All those things make it feel like a family event and can be really helpful to engage kids so that they actually look forward to cooking, and they know that that's a time they can remember back to something that was fun and was a good experience for them. The other thing is that to think about if I'm going to be out and about with my family for events, is there a way that I can take a cooler or something along that will have healthy foods in it? So maybe it's nuts or fruit, or maybe it's sandwiches, maybe it's yogurt, anything that can, when brought from home, it's going to help save us on our food dollar, and also can then be sure that the family has healthy options versus sometimes when we're out and about, the options are not nearly as healthy. Another suggestion is that we make a list and that we stick with it. And so this is an example on the right-hand side of the American Heart Association, and it's organized, as you can see, according to fruits and vegetables, and primarily fruits and vegetables. You could also have one that had some protein foods on it as well, but it's just an example of something you could use, and you can copy it and then use it over and over again to help you not only know what did I buy in the previous week, but what are the things that I check most often and that my family likes, so that you can be sure that you have those things. It's also suggested that if we have a day out during the week, that is when we shop, because there'll be less people in the stores, as you know, and also the less time that we spend in the store in general. And if we walk in with a list, the amount that we spend will be much more controlled than if we have multiple family members and there are crowded aisles and it takes us forever to get through the store, because that gives us access and time to look for more and to think of more things that we want to put in the cart. And what they say is that the research shows that, and for the average shopper, we will spend 40% more time on impulse buys if we do not have our list with us. So again, that can be something that can really save us on our budget. Suggestion number 3 is to be a loyal customer. And for many of us, we shop at multiple stores, which the reason we do that is because we might have coupons or there might be different opportunities to save money at the different stores. And that's certainly great. What this is suggesting though is that if you have a particular store, and I use the example here of Hy-Vee, that if you shop there regularly, then you can sign up for their program, their loyalty program, and then you can really save a fair amount on your gas expenditures. So think about that. I know some of the stores have like a particular day of the week that if you are over 50 or you're over 55, that you can save 10% on your grocery bill if you shop on that day. So depending on what your family makeup is like, you can save some money in that way as well. Another important thing is to think about the flyers that sometimes you get in the mail and looking at those and taking a red Sharpie pen and circling the things that you know that you want to get because it's a good deal. Also, if you are a coupon clipper, just and you use the hard copy of those and you get to the store or you have it on your phone and they say, sorry, we're out. Always ask them if they can give you a rain check so that you can come back the following week when their inventory's been updated, and then you can get the deals at a later date. Also remember that discounts are great if the product is something that we actually need and that we would normally buy in the amount offered. So a lot of us belong to some of those stores, such as the box stores, like the Sam's Club or Aldi, well, not Aldi, but Costco or some of those kinds of things. And so it's great if you actually need, you have a big enough family or you have enough storage in your home to buy a large amount of something. But sometimes when I think of bananas, often I'll see bananas for 29 cents a pound. And so I'll be like, well, I'll just take that whole big pack of bananas. And what ends up happening is that some of them get eaten and some of them, then most of them turn brown. And then I have to figure out if I'm going to have time to make banana bread or to, do something else with it. So think about that when you're buying in bulk, or if you think you might buy in bulk. Suggestion number 4 is to know your store. And one of the first suggestions there is that we don't shop when we're hungry. Because again, the research shows that we're going to spend a significant amount more if we do those impulse buys when we just leave work and go straight to the store. Also, what they suggest is that we ask the store manager again about any kind of discounts or if there are any particular days when they know that the higher priced items in the store will tend to be marked down. Also, we know that if we stick around the perimeter of the store, around the outside lane, you're going to find the healthiest food choices. So we'll find the produce, we will find the milk and dairy, we'll find the meat, things that are going to be healthiest. Whereas if we get into the guts of the store, so to speak, then there are a lot more enticing items and probably things that are not so critical that we have, but that we'll end up spending more money on. Another suggestion is that we all check the product expiration dates. And in general, it's best if we can choose the later date, unless it's a date where the expiration is coming up sooner. And then in those cases, because the store either needs to sell it or dispose of it, they will mark down the price. So if you know that you're going to be using a couple extra loaves of bread or hamburger buns, or you're going to grill out and they have meat marked down, then it might be a good choice to take something that's going to expire in the next couple days or the next week, because you can have some significant savings with that. Also, a great idea is to, once you know your store, you can plan to put the cold foods or the frozen foods in your cart last. And then again, keep their storage prolonged. And then also, like the summer we had, if you have a styrofoam container or some type of a cooling kind of container, then you can also keep those foods shelf life longer because you've kept them cool on the way home. Suggestion number 5 is to plan ahead to reduce waste. On the average, we Americans throw away 240 pounds of food every year, and that's per person. I find that amazing that happens, and certainly that's an average. Hopefully, you hope that you're not actually have a number that's high. But one of the things that can help to reduce that is to think about how we use leftovers. So if you've made some kind of meat product and you really have extra meat left over, you can use it in soup, as we know. You can freeze it, you can put it in a casserole. So many different ways, as you see on the slide, that you can use those leftovers. And hopefully you've got family members that like leftovers. I know I've encountered families where some family members refuse to eat leftovers, but I think as much, again, as we can help our children and grandchildren to understand that that's not only a good budgeting rule, but it's really tasty food, and actually it's a good way of saving the earth to use that food in different ways and to be creative. Next suggestion is to break up multi-packs and freeze the scraps for later. So oftentimes pork chops and beef and chicken, all those things come in big packs. And so one of the things that I know I used to do when my children were little was they ate a lot of cereal. So I would use the plastic bags from the cereal, rinse them out, and then use that to make smaller packages of the meats that then were easy to pull out of the freezer and thaw and then use for an appropriate sized meal in an upcoming week or month. You can do the same things with veggies and scraps. Also, just when you do that, ideally, we would all label and date those. And for best freshness, they say we have about a 2-month window of time. Unless you're a family that has one of those nice deep chest freezers that keep things really cold, and then you certainly can make the products last longer than just a couple months and pull them out as you need them. Tip number 7, ways to stretch your meat dollar. So like I said, we can use the meats as a side dish. We can use them in casseroles or soups. If we use them as a side dish rather than the main dish, then that in itself is going to really help stretch the food dollar. Also, if you use more tender cuts of meat, things like you see here, chuck roast, round, flank, plank, or brisket. And oftentimes, if you put an acid-based sauce, such as tomato sauce or barbecue sauce or vinegar, like in an Italian salad dressing, over that in the crock pot and then let it go for your 8 to 10 hours on slow cook, it will really help tenderize that meat, and it will fall off the bone when you go to eat it later for your evening meal. So think about, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can throw some extra herbs in there and it will just, come out with being really tasty. Also, you can use beef broth or chicken broth. Maybe even if you want to save food dollars there, use half strength, add some extra water. And again, you can really make an easy kind of tasty meal for the family. The last tip on this slide is to prepare the meat yourself. So on this slide, you see on the left-hand side, these are both Walmart examples. And so both the left and the right-hand side packages are 2.25 pounds. And the one on the left is of a whole packet of ground beef for $10.62 for that package. And then on the right-hand side, same weight, the meat has already been made into patties. There are 12 patties in that pack. And the price on that is $9.88. So right there it's kind of opposite of what often happens, but for some reason, the price is less if it's already ready to go and you can put it on your grill when you go home. So watch for those because it can go either way, but surprisingly, this is a pretty much an easy to prepare and a lower cost item for the one that you see on the right. Tip number 8 is to think beyond the meat counter. So beyond beef, pork, chicken. Some of the other great protein foods are, as you see listed here, eggs, yogurt, canned tuna, salmon, nuts, beans, lentils, cheese, cottage cheese. All those things are high in protein, and they also are going to be lower in price. They also are going to be good choices in terms of helping to reduce the carbon footprint. And so environmentally are going to be good choices as well. If you've been a family that has always planned on having some kind of meat item, you can think about saying we're going to have 1 or 2 meals a week that are going to be non-meat. We're going to have a bean meal, or we're going to have one of the other things you see listed here versus a red meat. And it's not only in general going to be lower in fat, but it's going to be a healthy choice for the whole family. And one study that was done several years ago showed that there could be a savings of $750 per year per person if the family adopted a plant-based diet. Hug your produce. Well, literally, we probably wouldn't do that, but basically the thought on this is that we can use fresh, frozen, or canned, depending on what's going to be the best price. And to definitely look at some of those other stores where you can get good deals on those kinds of products. Those of you that know me know that I shop fairly often in Omaha at the Dollar Tree, and they have dollar bags of frozen broccoli, other veggies, frozen fruits that are really appropriate size to open for a family. And even with those, you can save money compared to, for example, like a Walmart or Target. They're going to be less expensive. And I think they may have some of those kinds of items here at Dollar General too. I just haven't checked that recently here in Winnebago. Then number 10 is to think about using generics. You're probably familiar with this. In the manufacturing realm, many of the items that are generic are actually exactly the same product as what that brand name is. I remember when I was a child that my grandparents knew the people that owned a potato chip company here in Nebraska. And I remember getting the opportunity to go to that factory and to watch the production line and seeing the brand name come down the line. And right after that was the generic store brand name. It was exactly the same product. But it was going to be a significant savings to go with the store brand. So think about that. I know sometimes there are products, the one I hear about the most is ketchup. And some people just like Heinz, and no matter what the store brand equivalent is, they don't feel like it's the same product. So, work those kinds of things in if you or your family really prefers them, but do think about the generics if you haven't in the past, because you can save a fair amount of money. Tip number 11 is comparing unit prices. And hopefully you've done this before. If you haven't, it's not always been information available to us as shoppers, but you're seeing it really consistently now when you look on the shelves. And so basically the unit price is going to give you the cost per weight or per measure. So in other words, like per ounce or per pound or per quart or per gallon. And then you can use it, like you see at the bottom of this slide, to compare different sizes of a product and brands of a product. So in this example here, on the left-hand side, salad dressing number 1, you see a 32-ounce bottle. And on the right-hand side, you see a 48-ounce bottle. So basically, the one on the right is, another third bigger. And when you then take the price of each of them, so $3.89 divided by 32, you come up with 12 cents per ounce for the ranch dressing on the left And when you take 429 divided by 48, you get 9 cents per ounce. So if you are somebody in your family that loves ranch dressing and you know that you're going to use it consistently, then that product on the right is going to save you the most money and going to add up over time, even though initially it's a higher price. If you're somebody that you're not going to use that much of a product, then it might be a wiser choice to get the smaller container, because actually that will be all that you need, and then you won't end up having to throw some of it away because you didn't use it before the expiration date. Suggestion number 12, weigh convenience and be reasonable. So with all of us having busy families, busy lives from time to time, busier than others, sometimes it just makes more sense and reduces anxiety levels to just use some prepackaged or pre-shredded or convenience types of items. But it is possible to mix and match those. So maybe you have something that's a convenience item for the main entree, but then you make a salad or you make a dessert or you make something that's a side that is made from scratch. So, or vice versa. So think about, don't put the heavy burden of feeling like you always need to prepare everything from what I call scratch or from the basic ingredients. Realize that you can, it's what we do most of the time. And so look at maybe doing some of both. I do think if, you've gotten into the habit for whatever reason of eating all convenience foods, then again, say we're going to replace all those convenience foods with 1 day a week or 1 meal a week, and then move it to 2 as you can. And definitely involve the other family members in helping along with preparations so that it doesn't feel like one member of the family bears the burden of always having the food that goes on the table. The more that we can share that, the more we learn and the more appreciative I think we all get of how much time it takes to prepare food for our families. This is a website that you might want to look at. Tip number 13 is shop in season. So if you go to seasonalfoodguide.org, it's a very nice place that you can personalize information of what you're looking for. You put in the state, you put in the month of the year, and you put in the particular produce name. In this case, carrots was used. And I put in late October, and then what you get as a response is not only a description of that particular produce item of when it is ripest and what you look for so that you know that it's going to be of best quality and best taste, but it also shows you for the state when are the months that that's going to be available. So it's a really nice way if you're not, you haven't yet really looked at fresh produce and you're kind of wondering, well, I'm going to try and work that into our diet more often. When was the best time to buy, or when will the prices probably be the best because it's most abundant? It's kind of a nice website that you can use to identify that. Tip number 14, think outside the restaurant or the supermarket. So, and the restaurant. Think about places beyond, what might be your typical grocery store, and look to other places, like it says here, that might have some options for food that could really help you with your food bill. So the second bullet on this slide says, one study found that it's possible to purchase 1 week's worth of healthy groceries for $39. And that actually came from dollar stores. So dollar stores are now increasing their types of food offered. They often have mini meals. Some of them are higher sodium, but some of them are pretty good. And there's also cheese, there's also yogurt, milk. As I said before, there are a number of frozen fruits and vegetable products that you can use, so that really you can, if you think carefully and plan ahead, you can actually make a pretty healthy part of your family's meal plan coming from some places that you might not have initially thought would have products to do so. And then the last tip number 15, is to grow, freeze, and can on your own. And we're so lucky here in Winnebago that now there are more raised garden beds and community gardens and the farmers market that can help you to have more of those things right at hand out in your own back or front yard. or in maybe a pot that you've got just at the side of your home. You all know about Mary Kelsey's freezer meals, another great way to show examples of how we can take those fresh fruits or veggies and use them to then freeze them and provide them for the months to come. And then certainly the canning and safety, food safety classes that are offered here at Little Priest for Extension. Take advantage of those so that you can learn if you're not familiar with how to do that. So lastly, thank you so much for your attention. I have my email address here. I am over at in the Public Health Department several days a week, and I would love to talk to you by phone or by email or by text. Please let me know if I can help with anything, and have a good holiday season, and thank you so much.